Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. As we look forward to the election that's coming in November, it's hard. It's hard. That's the easiest way to put it, is it's difficult to figure out what's going to happen. We saw what happened in 2020, where we're at right now with poly market and other indicators. The public has overwhelmingly stood by President Trump. Now, again, that was in 2020 as well. We saw what happened. But is there enough support behind him and enough distrust in the mainstream media and big tech and their censorship, enough people leaving those systems that they're getting the truth and they're seeing what the country really needs? Is that going to be enough to turn the tide and make a change, right? Have actually, potentially get him back in the White House. But then the concerning thing is let's just say he does win. Well, the time period between the election ending and that, January 20th and the inauguration is a really sketchy time period, because they're talking and they're warning about all kinds of catastrophes and grid down cyber attacks, etc. And that's my great concern, is that even if he does get in, they're going to just absolutely decimate the country and hand that over to him and say, okay, well, here's your mess to clean up. And so joining me today is my good friend, Mel K. I'm sure you're familiar with her. She's got a fantastic show, The Mel K Show. And we're just going to have a sober conversation about what's the future look like? And say Trump does get in, what can he do in 4 years that's actually going to change the trajectory of this country? Is it going to be 4 years of trying to drain the swamp, but being stopped at every single step by lawfare and the media, etc.? Or can he actually do something? And say he does do a lot of things, will this be undone after 4 years when someone else comes in? So how do we actually fundamentally correct this and move forward? Now, before we jump into tonight's show, though, do a quick fun announcement. As you're familiar, I've been talking, if you follow the show, I'm actually writing a book, right? So prepping and preparedness is very dear to me. And if you look around the country, you can see that, yeah, you know what? We probably should be relatively prepared. Look at what's happened with the Hurricane Milton, Hurricane Helene, the Maui fires, the fires in Wyoming right now. And unfortunately, I feel like this is just a preview of what's to come, because the control oligarchs, the people that are running this country and a lot of the world, they want chaos for America. They want excuses to bring in martial law. So I'm in the process of finishing up writing a book. It's called Prep Like Noah, with the idea being that, similar to Noah's time, that we're living in the days of Noah again, where the world is full of corruption and that this evil needs to be cleaned out. But just like a flood was required in Noah's time to clean out the evil, potentially there could be some sort of massive shift that happens to eliminate the evil that's in our current world today. And so our job as patriots, as believers, our job is to, in my opinion, to make sure that we're prepared for whatever may come. So let me pull up actually the book for you, because I'm actually giving it away. This is the cool thing, is that I'm giving away the book. So it's for free. It's going to be an ebook and a PDF download. But the other great thing is that anybody who enters and you sign up to get the book, you're also automatically entered in to win up to 6 months in free survival food. So I talked to the owners of Heaven's Harvest. Clayton, my good friend, said, "Hey, Clayton, look, I'm giving away this book. You got to give something away to these people, right? Let's do some sort of raffle." So what they're doing is he put together a package where you can win either 6 months, 3 months, or 1 month worth of food. So this is thousands and thousands of dollars worth of survival food. So when you go to preplikenoah.com, this is where you land. So preplikenoah.com, you put in your name and your email. First off, as soon as the book is ready, you'll get it emailed to you in a format you can print off at home. You can look at it on your e-reader, etc. But you're also automatically entered in to win a bunch of free food. So again, that's preplikenoah.com. Go do that today before the show starts, because you won't be mistaken. It's going to be such a good idea for you to do that, because this book is going to be chock full of really good information. It's kind of like a prepping 101 type book. All right, folks, let's go ahead and jump into today's show with my good friend, Mel K. All right, listen up, folks. I've got a new sponsor at here.com/Seth. I'd love to have you check them out. If you've ever been frustrated with hearing loss, here.com is exactly where you need to go. These folks are the real deal. They've got an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, a 4.9 rating at Consumer Affairs, and over 500,000 people are already loving their super tiny, super powerful German hearing aids. Look how small this thing is. 500,000 people, folks, and the positive reviews just keep rolling in. So take Jerry, a podcast listener who wrote in saying the in-home exam made everything so convenient and his new devices are extremely comfortable compared to the old ones. Or James, who called workingwithhere.com a total win and said it's one of the best investments he's ever made. You know what the best part is? With insurance, flexible financing options, and 100% money back guarantee, Here.com makes getting great hearing aids super easy. Not to mention, these things are tiny. No one's even going to see them on your ear. So, if you're ready to stop saying, "What?" and start hearing the world clearly again, now is the time. So, right now at Here.com/Seth, you can sign up for an exclusive 45-day no risk trial and you'll get a free hearing aid consultation so you can hear the difference yourself. So, folks, what are you waiting for? Head over to Here.com/Seth. That's Here.com/Seth. Miss Mel K, it is always such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I feel like we have been on this journey together more than anyone. So I'm always kind of keeping up with you and you with me. And I love coming on. And what a time to be alive.
That is certainly you're right there. I mean, I feel like if as much as I idolize, like, oh, I wish I could go back to the 1950s and live in the 50s
Yeah.
and this classic America or like the 1800s. I feel like it'd be boring. It's like,
Yeah.
which would be lovely. Like, I think it'd be great, but there's just so much going on right now. But there's also a lot of purpose with this, and that's what
Yeah.
is great because it's like you see all this fog of war, and but you dig into it, it's like, oh, this is a battle of good and evil, and like, I happen to be on the good side, so I'm fighting, and
Yeah.
there's a purpose for this, so it's good. It's a crazy time to be alive, but it's a time period that God wanted me here, so it's the best time for me to
I
be
agree.
here.
Yeah, absolutely true. And I think we also have to start, going inside and really redefining for ourselves what we want for this country. I mean, really being proactive and mindful. What do we want for our future, for our children, for the world, let alone everything else? This is a true period of time in history where major shifts can and will be happening. It's just up to us, especially the American people, to know that and to choose wisely and really pay attention to all of the consequences of not doing your own research, not making sure that what matters to you the most, which hopefully is a human centric, family first, love and freedom, and all of the things that make living worthwhile. And I do believe a lot of that freedom is on the line at the next election. And I don't know if a lot of people fully understand that.
No, I mean, and this is why I always appreciate speaking with you because you're very sober about where our country is at. And it's kind of the double-edged sword of research, right? Because,
Yeah.
the whole saying ignorance is bliss. I mean, a lot of ways it is. And if I could go back to, say,
Mhm.
Seth in the early 2000s or the 90s, I mean, life was just
Me too.
great. There was no
Yeah.
concern and, it was just wonderful. But the harsh reality is that, yeah, like this is not a normal election, and I think that that's what people they're trying to rope everyone into that, right? They want you to think that, okay, it's red versus blue, it's left versus right, and if you can just get your candidate in, it's gonna fix everything, and I think that it's a big part of the fundamental problem with this country is that they've taken whatever the originally was as a constitutional republic, and they've turned it into this kind of amalgamation of, where most would say, "Oh, we live in a democracy," but, the reality is that it's like Coke and Pepsi. Like, you're given 2
Yeah.
choices, they control both of them, right? I think that the reason why Trump, I think, has had such a movement behind him is that there's so much of what he's doing that you would say they don't really control him nearly as much. I think there's definitely control levers on Trump. Like, to think that he's above it all and completely immune to that and, when he's
Right.
taking mass amounts of money from different individuals, there's gotta be some level of control there, but it does seem like that he in many ways is not within this cabal system of control.
Yeah, well, what I fully believe about Trump, having been around him and his family quite a bit over the last few years, is that he really does care about not just his children, but his grandchildren and what their life is going to be like. He started speaking out about a lot of this stuff during the early years of Obama. And certainly was talking about politics and being a president a long time ago, be it with Nixon or Reagan or whoever that he's met with and said so. So as much as I agree with that, and I hear people saying it, I also at the same time know the man that really loves his family as much as any father could, any grandfather could. I've seen it, I know it. And so we do have to remember that these people, not just the good guys, but the bad guys, are also humans. The problem is that a lot of the ones that are manipulating our nation and the world do not think of us as people. They think of us as problems. The humans are the problems they have to solve. And what I've really come to lately, and I really try to hit it home in my book, but I think that I understand how they function in a way that makes a lot more sense than what we've been told. You know, we talked last time. It's the Jews, it's the Khazarians, it's the Muslims, it's the Chinese, it's everyone. No, no, no. I mean, it really, the truth, I believe at this point, looking back from 71 forward, going off the gold standard and the World Economic Forum and Kissinger and everything that happened with Rockefeller and Brzezinski, I really believe that we have this problem of this global public-private partnership that is running our country like a parent company, but they have other, companies that are with them as well, and they believe in regionalization. So what they've been planning all these years, it's in Kissinger's papers. Rockefeller talks about it in his book. What they are doing and what is happening here is that they are running the world from above our nations, and we don't even see them if we don't look. So, frankly, they're allowing the illusion that the United States is a sovereign nation running on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and a vote between right and left, Republican, Democrat, just another election, just that. When the truth is, they are so far ahead in their control on a regional level that they put in the beginning when Biden came in, nobody ever even looked at it or talked about it. The Declaration of North America, this isn't new. This goes back to NAFTA. It goes back to regional control above nations, where the nation state is still under the illusion of choice, the illusion of power, the illusion of sovereignty. But really, it has been slowly but surely undermined by the global public-private partnership, who consider themselves stakeholders on planet Earth and the arbiters of all natural resources, all nature, all people, all land. And when they go to their meetings, like the COP conferences or Bilderberg or Davos conferences or any of their economic or global governance or transhuman conferences, they're not talking about people or nations. They are talking about top-down control that the handlers, public-private isn't public. It's the people that they have in positions of power in our nation that are controlling the public. When it comes to humanity, human-centric people, we do not exist to them. We are a problem that needs to be solved, and a growing threat to their control over money and natural resources that needs to be eliminated or at least lessened. And if you look at it that way, it makes a lot more sense that it's not any nation, it's not any flag or any religion or any race or anything. It is this so-called superclass spawned out of the Council of Foreign Relations and their Chatham House friends, that they are the stakeholders of planet Earth. And let those humans think that they, have their nation still, but they really don't. And that's what I really believe is happening here.
I couldn't agree more. And what I've come to is that whenever we get into a specific label, right, that you say you try to encompass, it's like saying that the Chinese are bad because their government's bad. Well, no, it's not the Chinese. It's actually it's the
Right.
CCP. It's the Chinese Communist Party. Like that's why
Right.
it is what it is. And I believe that really what I've come down to is that it's just Satan's minions. That as you get
I
up
agree.
to these very, very high levels of control, that you have these people that, like, they're not Jewish, right? The power that a lot of people are talking about, like, they're not
I know.
actual Jewish. They're not practicing the
Right.
original, right? From like, following what, Moses had taught originally. It's something, it's hidden within that. Right. And the thing is that there's Satan minions within Christianity. There's Satan's minions within the Judaism. There's Satan's minions within atheism, within all kinds of religions, but they're hiding, right? They're hiding within that. And I think that that's what
Yeah.
we're up against, is that people that it's like the only common theme. It's like to say that it's all one class of people, I think is in a lot of ways inaccurate, though you might find through research, and I'm kind of doing a lot of this research, that Okay, there are certain ties that seem to be very significant. But fundamentally, though, what you come to is that these are evil people that are hiding in the places that are the
Right.
easiest to hide in around the world, whether it's religions or behind a flag or whatever it is. Folks, we all see it. Everything's getting more expensive. We're paying 2, 3, 4 times what things cost just a few years ago. And we know they're lying. 3% inflation, really? Think about it. Why are they telling us to keep our hard-earned money in the banks and stock market while they're rushing to buy gold and silver? That's right. Governments and central banks around the world are dumping the dollar and scrambling to buy gold and silver right now. These are smart people. They see the signs just like you do. They know the crash is coming. The dollar has lost more than half its value in the last 5 years, and our national debt's increasing $1 trillion every 100 days. It can't go on like this. Even Bank of America's warning about a dollar collapse. And if they're right, it's only a matter of time before our savings, our IRAs, and our 401ks could be wiped out. Look, right now, it's still easy to buy gold and silver, but in the future, it may not be. Experts are saying that prices will keep surging, and UBS says that gold could even go up to $5,000 an ounce. Noble Gold's phones have been ringing off the hook because the folks who get it aren't wasting time. Now, I can't tell you what to do with your hard-earned money, but I can tell you that even if just some of your savings are in gold and silver, you can rest assured that money is safe. So call Noble Gold and protect your wealth today. It's better to be 6 months early than 1 day late. So call Noble Gold today at 626-654-1906 or visit goldwithseth.com and set up your free wealth consultation. The phone number and the websites are also in the show's description. And that their goal is to basically deliver this world to Satan so he can swallow it up and bring all the souls down to hell. Like, that's the best kind of conclusion I've come to in this research.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And the other thing is, to me, when I look at America, the one group that has been most instrumental in undermining the Constitution, this nation, our voice, our vote, and our freedom are the Rockefellers, and they're not Jewish. So every time that I see everyone talk Jews, I'm like, the people that have their fingers on everything from the Federal Reserve to the pharmaceutical and medical industrial complex to the education system to the global public-private partnership, the father in his memoirs admits it all. I mean, it's just, to me, I say, and then, if you say anything about globalism now, the corrupt ADL will come down. They call me anti-Semitic all the time because I talk about the Rockefellers or Operation Paperclip or, the Federal Reserve. None of this has anything to do. I love what you just said, because I've been saying this about Soros for 15 years, which is, I don't care what his religion or race is. I care that he's evil, and what he's done around the world should have been extinguished decades ago. But because of the financial system, chicanery and fraud, these top people, they stay in place forever. And then they groom the people after them. We got Lord Moloch Brown behind Soros and his son, who he barely knew when he was a kid. And now he's hobnobbing and marrying into the Clinton machine as well, where many of these people belong in prison. But I think it's really important for the American people that are watching you and are watching me to start really explaining how we got here, because people can see the damage and the wreckage, and they're blaming, the wrong people by design. You are being played. And honestly, the mainstream media is the worst of the worst. Certainly, MSNBC, not only do I believe is an intel operation, but I believe that the abuse of what they've done to their own audience. I mean, last night we had Joy Reid again saying that Black and brown people that vote for Trump are fascists and idiots. For 3 years, she was allowed to get away with saying white Christians were evil and white men are evil. Nobody stopped her. Nobody thought that this was bad. But now they're the same people that are telling us they have to censor and silence us because of malinformation, misinformation, and disinformation, when you could play hours of Don Lemon and Joy Reid and Nicole Wallace and Scarborough and Brzezinski's kid going on and on about just lying all about Russia. So this entire thing is all a giant fraud on the people of the United States of America. And like you said, I don't care if you like Trump or hate Trump or whatever. You are not hiring your friend. And the truth of the matter is that um, Trump is sanding the gears to a globalist public-private partnership agenda that is already built, and without America cannot succeed. It is the digital public infrastructure and the global pact that the Biden-Harris regime signed on to at the UN last week at the Pact of the Future, the Global Compact. And this is all about getting everyone on the track and trace surveillance system that, again, they blame the CCP, they blame China. But if you track where the digital public infrastructure, the track and trace surveillance system, social credit score, ESG score that is running right now in communist China came from, it is not meant to end at communist China. It is meant to be worldwide. And the only reason that they can't do that is because I believe the Constitution of the United States of America, the people of the United States of America, our Bill of Rights, and I believe our ability to get the message out to enough people over the last several years. But the end goal here is track and trace surveillance from birth to death by people that consider themselves stakeholders of the planet and all of nature and us, and reducing population. I mean, the Rockefeller Planned Parenthood document that came out, I think, in the 60s is all about depopulation, promoting homosexuality, pushing women into the workforce, expanding childcare and pre-care. I mean, these are plans from the Rockefellers working with Planned Parenthood in the 60s to eliminate population growth and population. But the truth is, if you look at the map of America that these people on the other side that want to get rid of the Electoral College put out to say we should get rid of the Electoral College, and then you see it's just kind of like East Coast, California, some dots where Chicago and Detroit and Phoenix are, and then the whole rest of the country is like a canvas that we could be investing in and rebuilding. And those tens of thousands of acres of dead farmland, abandoned towns, abandoned factories, this should all be flowing. And everyone should be asking themselves, why isn't it? Because that's the bigger picture. Why isn't America totally self-sufficient? And we have all the resources, everything. It is because both Bushes, Clinton, Obama, Biden, all in on the global governance model that is the end of nation states. And we are past the point that they are ready to kick it to the next gear. And of course, Harris and Biden don't talk about it, but on September of 2023, they put on the White House website, Harris-Biden commitment to global goals. Well, it's the 17 development goals, saying that Barack Obama signed on in 2015 to the 17 development goals. We are not only going to achieve them by 2030, but we're going to lead the way. Then delineates about $3 trillion of U.S. taxpayer dollars going to all global NGOs and global organizations for the achievement of Agenda 2030, which essentially is a track and trace surveillance digital gulag that they already made the same people in China. And that's where I am on all of this.
So I want to get your thoughts on the election and post-election and really just the future of America. And it's a big picture discussion, but I want to bring up just a tweet recently from Laura Logan. It says, if Trump is elected in spite of the cheat already underway, what are the chances he'll take office? I understand from multiple intelligence sources that those opposing him, America's enemies, both foreign and domestic, have plans in place to create violence that continues long after the polls close. You can expect these people to keep trying through the inauguration. It remains to be seen what happens after that, but business as usual seems likely to fail. The severe nature of the crimes committed against the American people, from treason to sedition to crimes against children, seem to have those responsible panicking right now because they know they have lost and accountability will follow. If you can't imagine what that will look like, listen to what is being said in the news right now. The guilty are talking. So this really helps kind of frame, the bigger picture discussion that I love picking your brain about, because one thing that, I covered, I think it was in last night's show, that, there's a video of Ron Paul talking about it, was this update, right? Actually, I think
Yeah.
I have it here. The update to the DoD directive, which is pulled up here. DoD Directive 5240.01, which basically was an update they made that hadn't been changed since, I think, 2016, but they've now put in this directive that the Army military is basically given permission to that they will use lethal force in particular situations where needed in helping out local law enforcement, et cetera. So it's a significant document because everything's, as you know, the devil's in the detail. It's these small changes to language that tell us a lot about the bigger picture. So if we look at this and we look at the state of our country right now, and you look at how I really feel like that we're in like an end game with this cabal, that they
I do
are
too.
losing control, but that makes them even more dangerous. And you look at Trump getting in. I think that for the people that have the idea that, okay, let's just get Trump in, he's got 4 years, he's going to drain the swamp, and we're going to fix the country. I feel like it's almost like taking someone who's got stage 4 cancer, and they've got bone cancer, they've got liver cancer. Like, this is our country. There's some healthy
Right.
cells, but the core system, the bones have been rotted, right? You look at our
Right.
education system, our entire financial
100%.
system, the Federal Reserve. I mean, things that go back 100, 200 years that we don't even know about anymore because we've been so far long gone down this hole of where they've taken us to, that we're so far from what I really believe the founding fathers intended, that I think even if Trump does get in, and even if there's not some insane chaos, he won't be able to fix this within the current system. Like, the only way I see a future, say 10 or 20 years from now, is that if somehow, if it's similar to how, God flooded the earth in Noah's time, that the evil was so rampant it took a flood to wipe out the evil and start over again. Because as you know, the more you learn, the more you research, you realize that almost everything that creates the reality around us is being controlled and manipulated by
Yep.
very evil people. So how do you see a way forward?
Well, my biggest concern and my biggest problem with what's going on is, first, the Patriot Act was not only unconstitutional, but it has been used to been so weaponized that no citizen in the United States of America has privacy right now at all, whether it's taking your data to the multinational corporations, or it's in any other way. Our rights have been completely violated, and many people don't even realize how insidious the surveillance state has become. And we already live in a total police state at this point. It is because the unconstitutional blob that came out of the Patriot Act, TSA, DHS, which is a Frankenstein agency run by one of the worst people we've ever seen in any position in office, but also TSA, all of this stuff. We had plenty of intelligence before the blob came. The blob was created for us, and as soon as Ray and Merrick Garland got in there after Biden was installed, they put in the anti-government, anti-authority task force, which works, of course, with the weaponized DOJ's National Security Division. And at this point, what we basically have is an entire intelligence branch that I believe works for the parent company, what I call the parent company, the global public-private partnership above our government. They work for them. As I also believe the biggest, I feel like, danger of what's going to come is from the same group that should have been held accountable in 2016 through 2020, certainly for the PSYOP and an exercise known as the Transition Integrity Project with Podesta, Norm Eisen, a bunch of billionaires, I believe, Dunn and Rosa Brooks and all these people, where they gamed out 12 scenarios of how Trump would win and how they would counter it. And remember, they were pushing early on, there's going to be violence if Trump wins, we're going to secede. I mean, if people look at the Transition Integrity Project and the writers, all of those people should have been investigated by now. But instead, what happened is all of them, Norm Eisen, Weissman, McCord, they all went to different NGOs or university think tank type things. McCord's at Georgetown. Weissman's at NYU. His group is Just Security. Eisen's has his hands in everything, but he's Voter Protection Project, States United, Stand Up America, all these same things, not to mention his pal over there, David Brock, at 65 Project, and all of these people. It is this group of people that I believe have done the most damage to the United States of America. Oh, also Mark Elias. So you got these Poison Ivy League lawyers that have bastardized the legal system, had made us a mockery on the world stage. It is this small group, the lawfare crew from Brookings. They wrote all of the lawfare cases against Trump, and all of the lawyers, Eastman and all of them. These guys are behind it. And again, these are lawyers that come out of both the Clinton and the Obama regime that went on their own way, but they all have been working, I believe, for well over a year on another transition integrity project scenario for if Trump wins. And that is why people are so focused on one thing. I am telling you that exact same group of people, and they include people from the Atlantic Council, from Brookings, from these universities that have endless people working for them. Also, you can't forget the Media Matters and all the PR and WITIS and all these people. And they don't hide it really. And they work in tandem with MSNBC and CNN because they send the same people that they have their weekly call that Politico exposed months ago with George Conway, the Lincoln Project, all the same people that did this in 2019 to 2020 have been working for a year with also Cass Sunstein's behind the scenes, who's their, idol, writing all the open border stuff. We have a group of Poison Ivy League lawyers that believe that they are a super class to decide what will happen for America by manipulating the law, making people fear their lives being destroyed. Not just if you go to the Media Matters Midas touch size, they're going to dig into your life. They're going to destroy you, your family, everything. The lawfare side, they're going to destroy your reputation, your career, your life, financially destroy you, take your bar license. They have paid no price. Okay, no price. And I don't care what side you're on. These people I don't even believe that they're left or right, Republican or Democrat. They are power for power's sake. Their goal is to make sure that the parent company, the global public-private partnership that runs above our government, where the main tentacles of that in America are USAID, the State Department, which is a global public-private partnership, and a bunch of NGOs, all the way to the Rockefeller Institute and all of their NGOs that they invest in with Gates and everyone. Those lawfare people work for them because they do not care about Democrats either. They don't care about Democrat vote, any of it. I fully believe, and this goes all the way to BlackRock, Vanguard, and all the people on the board. So Eric Schmidt, Bill Gates, Bezos, all the people that benefit from all of this, the military industrial complex. They need to maintain the power structure. It is everything because they have vested financially since 2015 in a future of regionalized control by them. And that requires nation states to have players in place as the president, as the State Department head, running the government, running this division, running that work for them. So this is all why. Why do we need $1 billion to go into a campaign for a government position? Like, this is not, people have to fully understand the entire election apparatus was captured long ago. Trump didn't even think Trump was going to win till that night. This was, and that was a mistake, folks. That was a mistake on their part. And they were not going to let it happen again in 2020. And then they imported all the illegals and they say it's not for voting. It's for one party rule after 2024, if they can pull off the steal. Now, the big problem is that I don't think they can because they picked the worst two candidates ever. I mean, and then, I've never been more excited about watching Hollywood implode with everything they're doing and saying this. Nothing will hurt them more than putting all their chips in the Kamala Waltz basket. But I think we really have to pay attention that it's not your neighbor, it's not your friend, it's not, your relatives you haven't talked to since they voted for Donald Trump. They don't care about LGBTQ plus. They don't care about Black or Hispanic people more than anyone else. They just know that they can sugarcoat their 17 development goals and their entire control structure by making it about protecting marginalized communities or minorities, when the whole end goal of all of that is taking freedom of speech, freedom of expression, everything from all of us. So the useful idiots that are voting for Kamala, a ghost, so that they can continue their multi-billion-dollar, harvesting operation or whatever is going on after 6 months to 9 months in the abortion business. Because it is a business and it has a lot to do with stem cells and transhumanism. And nobody ever talks about the billions of dollars that are going through Planned Parenthood and then after the abortion, the entire industry that is based off of stem cells and organ regeneration and all of that. So, but if all these people are so convinced that they must vote for Kamala Harris because women's health rights will be taken away, they are the people that the parent company know are easily manipulated, are easily, distracted, and will comply. But when the tide turns, they don't care about them either. They'll throw them. They make one false move, they're in the mix too. And there are a lot of gay people that have had it with the whole transgender and all of that, and they're not getting a voice. And I think there's way more of them that they have kids. They don't want their kids being taught what they're taught in school. They don't want my black friends, they think that this critical race theory and what they've done to children in schools is awful for their children. So why? I want the American people to ask, why are we importing anything? Why is our farms from sea to shining sea abandoned and dying? Why are there full on steel mills totally abandoned that could work just as great right now as they used to? And we've advanced. Plus, all these people are invested just as much in China as they are here, folks. And guess what's happening in China? Coal plants, hardcore STEM education, the raising of standards for children and education, keeping all of this LGBTQ plus, all of this racial division out of their schooling. So you have to look at the juxtaposition and then always look at that the CCP is at the top of the UN and at the top of the World Economic Forum. And like I said before, American people, you must understand when you look at China's digital gulag, it was built by the same people that built ours. They're just waiting for us to join it. And Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's team, which is not them, they're figureheads, are all invested in that we do that. And if you look at it that way, maybe you'll understand. Trump is just sand in the gears. 2025, what I say, Seth, if you ask somebody who they're voting for in 2025 and they don't say themselves, their family, their children, and the future, then they have no idea what the stakes are at all.
I agree. And I think that when you say that Trump is sanding in the gears, that's very accurate because like what I'm seeing is that, he is just like he can slow things down, right? Because when
Right.
you look at the cycles, you look at even looking at just the state of the dollar and looking into the history of fiat
Yes.
currencies and the life cycle of fiat currencies, our dollar, right, which is the basis of a lot of this global control system, is the ability to have a private bank, print
Right.
unlimited money, loan it to our government, put our government in massive debt, but fund wars, right? Fund unlimited wars around the world to, kind of play risk or chess with the whole world's
Yeah.
countries and do,
Right.
color revolutions, overthrow governments, seize natural resources, seize ancient relics. I mean, any number of things that our military has done at the
Right.
hands of these controllers. So if you look at all of this, and this is what I was kind of mentioning earlier, I was saying that I think that to believe that Trump getting back in for 4 years is going to fix everything, I feel like is dangerously naive
Me too.
because I'm hopeful that he would do very good things, right? If he got back in, that there would be positive things, and I know that our Second Amendment would probably be more secure, freedom of speech, et cetera. Like we've heard a lot of Kamala her talking about how dangerous misinformation is and, coming after our guns, all these, all these things. But like fundamentally, when you look at the bigger picture of it, it's like Trump, it's like there's this giant tank that's just rolling towards the destruction of America, really. And Trump, again, he's like a rock that gets in the way of it, but eventually it'll roll over that because, what we're at where we're at right now in history is a place where, again, it goes back to the analogy of that the bones are rotted so much that
Yeah.
I have a hard time seeing, like, like looking forward 10 years, it's like, what does our country look like?
Yeah.
Because, even if Trump just goes in and say he does maximally, he makes major changes, well, what you'll see is the next administration will get back in, the media still operates. So you'll still have the people that are, his whole presidency, those whole 4 years, they're going to be told that he's a dictator. You got to get him out. Maybe they've got Newsom
They've
at
been
that.
planning for a year. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, after he comes out of it, then, we've got 8 years of Democrat policy. which could undo almost everything that he could have done. So that's why I think like the only way forward, and I'm not being pessimistic, I'm actually being optimistic, is that the way forward, actually really fundamentally, the only way I see forward is that God steps in, right? It's
Me
kind of
too.
like, it's like in Noah's time, if he had some sort of political plan to get rid of the evil in the world, it would
Right.
have been, it would have scratched the surface of it. Like the only plan was that God steps in, wipes out the evil strategically, and allows the good people to rebuild after that. And that's what I see. And when I see, if Trump gets back in, what I see is that he will strengthen and encourage a lot of people that are fighting for traditional values and fighting for the core principles of this country, that hopefully that strengthens us even more so we can get through whatever difficult times are ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm telling you, Eisen, Weissman, McCord, Wittes, all these people, Sustein, all of them have been planning for Trump to also win. Mary McCord said it in an interview with an NBC News that they have been going through for months all of Trump's interviews, all of his surrogates interviews, everything that he did when he was in office, things he wanted to do and didn't do. And they've come up with counter and lawfare from day one. And we also know that Jamie Raskin and Hakeem Jeffries and Adam Schiff and many other people have said flat out they're not going to certify the election. And they're still running They wrote a hit piece on Seth Keshel today, calling him election denier. Like as Stacey Abrams sits on the board of the Bilderberg and Center for American Project or Progress, and also Hillary Clinton, are they election deniers? I mean, it's all so crazy. And but what you said is true. This is not about, like I said, this is not about Donald Trump. The momentum that people like you and I that have been on the road for 4 years and doing our shows and stuff, it's not Trump victory and we win. It's Trump put sand in the gears and we get to work because the swamp is in your backyard, because these people are brilliant. And since they started this path to turning America into basically a consumer society with our natural resources being pillaged by the global public-private partnership, while they force us into the same thing as China, and then even worse, off of our land into like smart cities for their own gain, because they need those natural resources to run their 17 development goal track and trace surveillance system. So the digital public infrastructure needs the energy, the water, the minerals, all the things that are plentiful under the United States of America that we're not even allowed to touch because of the EPA and a lot of the executive orders and all of that. America should be importing nothing. We should be fully self-sufficient. We should have children that are getting out and they're going in and they're engineers and they're farmers on the next scale. And there's no, like, the whole political situation is a disaster. Our relationship to the government has been usurped. The original Constitution has been literally thrown out the window. I also want to know, what is the status of a vassal state in the United States of America? Where does that line up right now, that Washington, D.C. is still considered a vassal state? Because I'd like to also know about that. On top of that, they are trying to fight Schedule F, which is how Trump and Kash Patel and everyone were planning in his second term to really get rid of the waste, which is probably 80% of the government agencies. Also, many of them using the 10th Amendment, 9th and 10th Amendment, are unconstitutional to begin with, should never have existed. Nobody's challenged them. But all of the stuff I'm saying, including making lobbying illegal, rewriting the code for 501s, 501c3, 501c4 should not be granted to any NGO that has any connection to either the UN or any of the oligarch billionaires, because that is how they end up not paying taxes, not what the left is saying. It's because they have foundations and trusts that then funnel money through Arabella or Tide into any of these NGOs that then become the front line. But you know what those NGOs do? They pay a lot of contractors and all of that. But the mentally ill never get the help, or the homeless never get the help, or, we're sending money overseas. Everything is going to depend on the American people keeping up the momentum that we've had for the last 4 years. And it's not going to stop, but we can't stop. Anyone that thinks Trump winning, first of all, the most scary days will be between the 5th and the 20th. If we get through that, then we got to get to work. But I'm very, very worried that people a lot, especially because you and I have been in many different groups. Anyone that looks at Trump as more than a human being and a man.
Folks, hold off on purchasing your first order from Balance of Nature because I have some important information you need to hear. If you go to balanceofnature.com to buy their popular fruit and veggie supplements, a discount offer will pop up. It may say 20 or 25% off your first order. Don't click that because if you use my code, you'll get 35% off your first order plus free shipping. So my code is Seth. SETH. Use my code and save big. And here's another bonus. Balance of Nature has a risk-free money-back guarantee. So go ahead and find out for yourself what I already know. There's no other product out there like Balance of Nature when it comes to fruit and veggie supplements. So whether you order online or call them direct, you must use the promo code Seth to get this special offer of 35% and free shipping. So call them at 800-2468-751 and use discount code Seth, or order online at balanceofnature.com. Use discount code Seth to get 35% off.
That happens to be in that position to throw sand in the gears again and give we the people the chance to follow our path. Like you talked about Moses and the Red Sea. People say, oh, Mel, there's got to be a Red Sea moment. I go, well, they didn't know that there was. They just kept walking in faith. And I feel the same way right now. None of this momentum should start. You know, you and I are both going to be in North Carolina at Reawaken. The last one, it is a heavy hitter list. It is really pared down to like one after another, or just dropping the bombs of facts and truth for the people, whether they care to share and care to listen. But the problem with all of that is that momentum needs to go on steroids on November 5th, not the other way. All the things that we've uncovered and we put out there need to be taken care of. And that starts in every single person's backyard. It's not about Trump. It is about you. And frankly, I say all the time, and I'm sure you've heard me say it, when you look at the parent company scenario and the international banking, first of all, why does nobody know what the Bank of International Settlements is and that they run our Federal Reserve? And why do they have the same status as the Vatican and maybe DC and the City of London, where they are a vassal state that is immune to investigation or even, they have the Chatham House rules? Well, our 12 governors of the Federal Reserve go to the Bank of International Settlements every few months. For what? You know what I mean? So there's just so much that's above here that's that they can't risk financially being exposed either. So we can't stop on that realm either. We need those people. We need the people to stay on the realm of big tech and surveillance. And it's unconstitutional, most of what's happening. We agreed to a license, a birth certificate, and a social security number. Beyond that, unless I committed a crime and you have evidence, you're not entitled to any of my data. When did this become okay? So there's so many places, but it's going to require every single person that is going to vote for Donald Trump better know that they better be getting to work right after that if they can, or their children and grandchildren will not have any kind of future that's worth living. Not in the fourth industrial revolution that Klaus Schwab just talked about yesterday on stage in the Middle East. So we really need to realize that, because I see the people out there, especially the people that think Vance and Thiel and Trump are all, on the same side as the other. That is not true. They are fighting their own battles. There are battles amongst the so-called elites right now. There are battles among the high-level bankers. There are battles among the high-level tech titans. And it is really, I believe, everyone is fighting their own battle right now and is picking sides and teams. And the only team I want to be on is the one that's moving towards freedom and truth and justice and honestly, transparency, because that's the other part of this. Nobody's gone to jail since 1963 that was involved in the murder of JFK or anything since, all the way up to the Clintons and the lawfare crew from the Transition Integrity Project and the Crossfire Hurricane and many things along the way. So I also believe that if there was a real transparency group and a truth and reconciliation push and a good AG, that was exposing this, people would start to realize that the bad guys are on both sides, and they are, most of them are inside the agencies in our government, and you don't even know their names. And to me, there's a lot there.
There certainly is. I want to hone in on one thing that you mentioned in terms of resources, right? And the resources under America, water, energy, et cetera. I was listening to something recently from Stefan Molyneux. It was one of just a little kind of clip of
Yeah,
one of
I
his
like
longer
it.
shows. And it was talking about how the greatest resource for the elites or the cabal, whatever you want to call them, is actually us.
Yeah,
That our minds and our energy, it is the greatest resource. And he was framing it as farming. He was saying, so like what they're doing is actually they're farming us.
yeah,
They can grow a certain worldview. They can extract from that, right? And this goes back, a lot of it goes back into silent weapons for
it's true.
quiet wars, right? And talking
Yes,
about harvesting energy from the system and then using a shock to reset the system and get the energy going again. And so I really do believe though that actually that we are their greatest resource, and that the only way, okay, aside from God stepping in, which I think will happen personally, I feel like that's just where we're at
I
in
do too.
history. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think that also it's actually, if the greatest resource, which is we the people, aligns itself around God's wishes and God's will
right.
instead of the will of the cultural kind of push from Netflix or the music industry, or getting sucked into Monday Night Football. I mean, these are all things that are meant to harvest our energy, right? Because they
Right.
want us that, instead of someone like me being involved with citizen journalism and building a relationship with my local community and meeting the sheriff and these kinds of things, they want nothing more than for me to be hooked on Monday Night Football and them doing
Right.
fantasy football the rest of the week. So I'm so busy and distracted that all of my energy is going into something that actually they control. They can
Right.
monetize, they can they can make money off of me, but
Right.
also they can make sure that my resources aren't going into something that's going to grind down their plan. And that's why the ultimately, aside from God stepping in, the greatest thing that we can do in this battle is to have more and more people just stepping up and saying, I'm not going to,
Yeah.
I'm throwing away these distractions. I'm just going to focus on saving my country, on building community, on getting to know who my neighbors are, getting involved,
Yeah.
figuring out, okay, who is my sheriff, right? And how's he going to help if things go south, right? So this
Right.
is what this is, and this it's a lot of what I know you're talking about it, and then what I'm talking about, and this is why I always love having these conversations with you, because you're not coming on here and saying, "Look, it's the Democrats, it's the left. Look what they're doing," because I feel like that's also part of the psyop, right?
Me
Why is
too.
it that, Fox News? To me, Fox News is the same thing as
Me
CNN or
too.
MSNBC.
Yeah. Yep.
They're both the same thing. Their job is to make the right hate the left, right? And CNN's job is to make the left hate the right. So we all get so distracted with these completely manufactured wars and crises within our own people that we don't say, "Gosh, you know what? Like, you're an American and you've got kids and you want freedom and I do too, and like let's band together." Like that's their greatest fear, is us banding together.
Yeah, well, that's what Americans Anonymous is all about.
There you
Restoring
go.
power to the people, one citizen at a time. Because I got sick of seeing people. I drove all over this country, and I've been in 30 states. Rob and I like to drive. We started with you early on in the Reopen America days, and I have to tell you that. No matter where we go, Rob and I always stop. We ask where the not the best place to go is. We ask where the people that actually live in the town hang out. Where do they go? And no matter where I've gone, it's people, once you talk to them, it's not left and right, Republican, Democrat, any of that. It is really what has happened to our country, what has happened to prices, what is happening in schools. People can't believe how far it's gotten, and they do see it. And for me, I just kept thinking it's not left and right, and I would hone in on that with anyone that went there and say, no, this is divide and conquer. And my theory that there's a parent company running this country, like they're the stakeholders in America, and we're the problem that they need to solve to make sure that they can keep their gig going, of their superclass. Is to realize that we are divided by design, but really most of us agree on most things. And the whole making abortion the one issue has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the lie of the entire industry that backs that, and how much money they're putting into this. But you know, um, I talk about what you said, which is it is a go time for us, God willing, if Trump does win in 2024, we need to look that the UN, the 17 development goals, the track and trace surveillance, all of these things have infiltrated the local communities, the towns, the counties, the states. We need to drain the swamps where we are. That swamp in DC is it's rotten to the core. We got to get rid of lobbying, NGOs, think tanks. In my opinion, there's many things they shouldn't be doing. There's very specific things they should. But the swamp is in your backyard. And that's where it starts. And that's where you can make a big difference. And like you said, I actually advocate for Freedom Watch meetings in communities and re-engaging with your neighbors and your neighborhood and your community, being the catalyst if no one else is doing it, and humbly realizing that, I care about me, my family, my loved ones, my neighbors, my community first. Well, what can I do to show that, to give that? And there's many different ways, but the swamp that needs to be drained in America is festering everywhere. They were smarter than people think. The entire evolution from World War II forward was to, I believe, turn America into a consumer society that is only good for natural resources, and everything else they're investing in the global governance. But the global public-private partnership, the stakeholders, the multinationals, their future financial success is in China and India. China, 1.6 billion, India, 1.8 billion. Also, this situation with BlackRock and Vanguard using our pensions, public and private pensions, to also invest with the CCP and CCP companies and military in Mexico with CCP in Mexico, in Africa with taking the phony carbon capture stuff. These multinational corporations that run the parent company that runs America are faceless and nameless as long as we think that left and right, Republican and Democrat, black and white, gay and straight is the issue. And again, they're paying for it through their pass-throughs and NGOs that then they get tax write-offs on because they're through their foundations. I read last week in a great article about the NGOs and the 501 classing of 501c3, 501c4s. None of those NGOs pay any taxes. Neither do any of the UN agencies, including the entire UN in New York. But on top of that, FEMA doesn't pay taxes. Fannie Mac don't pay taxes. In-Q-Tel doesn't pay taxes. All the Gates Foundation, Open Society, Rockefeller, none of them pay taxes. $13 trillion in taxes. If any of these NGOs that aren't actually nonprofits helping people were no longer able to get these tax deductions. And I don't think that they should be for churches and synagogues and mosques either. I think that this was a control mechanism put in by Johnson to slowly but surely control all religious institutions because of this ridiculous 501 issue. And once we deal with that, and obviously I'm a big proponent for tearing apart and investigating and auditing a USAID, National Endowment for Democracy, Carnegie Endowment, for what they've done all over the world. We have 800 military installations that are not wanted. And we have a country that is suffering and literally has tens of thousands of acres of dead farmland and manufacturing full towns. Like, why aren't we doing that? And then when you think about the endless war game, well, do people know that the multinational corporations and the parent company own Ukraine's land now, like they do everywhere? And remember, early on, Kamala went down to look at the root causes in Honduras, Guatemala, and I guess where else down there? A couple other places down in South America in the very beginning, before the influx of these giant caravans. What happened down there? Because let me tell you something. That $200 billion that we sent to Ukraine to kill 600,000 Ukrainian citizens and create a war with Russia that has been going on since before we were even alive, and certainly took off in 2014 thanks to Obama and the Newland regime. But every single place on planet Earth, in Africa and in South America and in the Middle East, could be thriving with clean water, electricity, internet, commerce, education, transportation, uh, uh, flowing with food and vegetation. The only reason they're not is because the control oligarchs, the parent company, these people that are out to get America, that Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Obama, Clinton, both Bushes all worked with him for to facilitate are there. I mean, it's just, it's so crazy to me. And the problem is that the American people are so inundated with the idea that we are also separated. I don't think that we are separated if they had the actual facts. And what I'd really like is for Kamala and Waltz to just say, our goal is to join the global movement of global governance for Agenda 2030. This is what it looks like. The law of the land will be the 17 sustainable development goals and a digital public infrastructure that you will be on from birth to death, because that will make a better future. And the fourth industrial revolution is coming, whether we like it or not. Why don't we control it? So to me, just be honest that your goal is to end the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and sovereignty of not just America, but all nation states for something that you prefer, and let the American people vote on that.
Exactly. If they were only honest, right?
Yeah.
It's like asking the thief. It's like, well, can you just maybe not steal everything from me? It's like, well, why
Right.
not? It's like, I'll take
Right. Well,
everything
they're
if I
only
can.
looting $800. Our
Exactly.
business will survive until
Exactly.
they shut down all the Rite Aids.
Of course, of course. So, Mel, I want to bring up, as we're wrapping up, your book one
Thank
last
you.
time. So, it's on Amazon, Americans Anonymous, Restoring Power to the People, One Citizen at a Time. A lot of what we talked about today is in this
Yes.
book. So I highly recommend that, Americans Anonymous. Also, your website, themelkshow.com. Beautiful new website, by the way.
Thank
You've got
you.
the
Thank
book
you. We have an
featured on
amazing
here.
girl that's doing it.
Oh,
Yep.
it's fantastic.
Awesome. She's doing a great job.
It's
She's
looks
the
so
best.
good. So
Thank you.
themelkshow.com, and as we always discuss, resources. So, on the website here, reputable resources. This is such a wealth of information here. Mel's gone through so much hard work to get this put together to make it really
Yeah,
easy.
it's free.
Right here, for instance, organizations funded by George Soros and his Open Society Foundations. Oh, wow, imagine that. So all
Yeah.
this is on the melkshow.com. So, Mel, any
Yes,
final
sir.
thoughts as we wrap up?
Well, first, I just want to say that I too am hopeful. I still believe that God and God's people hold the keys to the future, and not these godless power mongers. But I would caution everyone to start taking back their individual liberty, their personal sovereignty, their own opinions. There is no such thing as misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. There is only information, and you are the arbiter of that, what is true and what is not for you. Stop thinking that the best computer in the world isn't the brain that God gave you, because it is. And take back your power. Stand up, speak up, show up. Don't be afraid. We are going to deal with crazy chaos, I believe, between the 5th and the 20th. I still believe truth and justice will prevail in the long run, but stay aware of what matters to you most. It should not be about party. It should not be about all this different nonsense. It should be about what matters to you in your personal life, and prioritize that and go from there, because they've taken us so far away from love and cooperation and companionship and community and fellowship by design. And your best bet in going forward is to reinvest in all of that. So I really appreciate you having me on. I look forward to you coming on my show so you can tell a whole bunch of amazing information to my audience too. And I appreciate you so much. It's been incredible to be on this journey with you guys. And thank you.
Absolutely, Mel. Likewise to you. Well, thank you, and I'll be seeing
Thank
you
you.
soon at the Reawaken event, which I
Yes.
think both of us will have streaming on our Rumble channel. So for everyone
Yes, we
that wants
will.
to watch it, both of our channels will have it up there. And then maybe in the next couple of weeks, I'll come back onto your show and talk
That'd be
about
awesome.
prepping and all that kind of fun stuff. So
Yes. And then we have to go forward. You and I are not giving up. We're not giving up on our children, our families, love, the country, the future, or the world. So I will see you on the other side no matter what.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Mel.
Thank you, sir. See you soon.
Folks, there is a lot to worry about these days, and a lot of it keeps us up at night. And sometimes I've got a really hard time falling asleep. But ever since I started adding magnesium breakthrough to my nightly routine, I've been able to quiet my mind and get the best sleep ever. So, unlike other magnesium supplements that might be giving you 1 to 2 forms of magnesium, magnesium breakthrough contains all 7 forms of magnesium, designed to help calm your mind and help you fall asleep and stay asleep and wake up refreshed. So, if you're struggling to calm down and get a good night's rest, I highly recommend Magnesium Breakthrough from Bioptimizers. So don't miss out on the most relaxing sleep ever with Magnesium Breakthrough. So for an exclusive offer, go to bioptimizers.com/wholehouse and use promo code WHOLEHOUSE, that's HOLEHOUSE, during the checkout to save 10%. And if you subscribe, not only will you get amazing discounts and free gifts, but you're going to make sure that your monthly supply is guaranteed.